Buongiorno, good morning to Jaxx Vane Studio Live number 21. We're live 3 times a week on Twitch, and we're working on a sailing game simulator. This week I'm concentrating a little bit more on the graphic engine, trying to add a little bit of effects and nice things to the engine in order to be able to do screenshots that are a little bit more interesting compared to what I was able to do earlier last month and during the entire duration of the project. Right now I'm working mostly on the color mixing. Right now everything is fucked up because I'm working on it. So the idea is basically I started to do this editor, and in this editor I can put the sun wherever I want, and then edit the lookup table for the various components of the for the skybox and the entire lighting situation. Like, for example, I can go here and change the colors of this, so give it, a sort of dark blue, and this is when the sun is at 0 degrees. So 0 degrees for the horizon, make it a little bit more yellowish, which I tend to prefer. There is still this transaction here that it's a little bit, give this violet color, which is a little bit annoying. Yeah, and I can change things like sun color, blah blah blah, in various positions. Now, originally I had this lookup table. This I can basically have as many points as I want, but I'm not sure it's the right thing to do. It becomes really annoying to edit this thing. So I think I will stick to this kind of situation where I only have like 3 control points for each one of these. And I will be editing another value that I already put in this morning, so I just need to attach it to the editor, where basically is sort of influencing the way the angle of the sun is really going to generate an angle. So the direction, the y direction of the sunlight, how is getting translated into an angle. So it's possible to give it a gamma. So basically what I want, I don't want to have a huge transition between the sun being low and having this kind of yellowish colors. I already put an hard coded value, but once I put it in the editor, you will see what it's doing. You see that as soon we raise up a little bit, we immediately go into the blue. So it's a little bit like, instead of going linearly from 0 to 90 degrees, we're just going much faster with the gamma function, right? So let me adjust this, attach this to the editor so we can see what it's actually doing. And something else is now the renderer is supporting internally HDR, so I'm rendering to 16-bit floating point precision render targets, so I can now adjust the exposure of the image. And one of the tasks for today that I hope to get to is to also come with a automatic exposure system, and how to combine it with the manual exposure system. So before we go there, so I will put this thing that controls the way the value of the sun is tweaked to go quickly into the red. So maintain this red yellowish color to the minimum. What was it? this and tmax75, thank you for the follow. So keep the range of this red element to the minimum, and it's working already like this, but I want to be able in the editor to keep tweaking this. And something else that the editor will do, will have to be able to do, is to save the file. So right now I have a file that looks like this. Again, with this new file format that I come up with for this project, it's very, very simple to do this kind of files, where if I want to add something, I just add something like this, and I have another point in the lookup table. If you've used Assetto Corsa 1, you know that doing things like lists and arrays was a little bit painful, where you had one section, it was all based on ini file. So you had one section that was, look at something like this, like header, and then count. So, you know, how many things you had in that header, and then you had, like, you know, the thing 0, you know, blah, 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 and then thing 1, blah, 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 and so on, right? So it was a little bit painful. Imagine trying to do a lookup table with this system, where it will be like, okay, I have 3 values, and then values underscore 0 is this, value of that. And the nice thing about this file format is that it's based on tabs, a little bit like Python. So if I want to add something, I can keep indent and creating a structure in the data. Of course, it's not automatic. Then when you load the data, you need to know what the data layout is. There is no automatic translation of this thing into a data structure, but yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind doing this. All right, so basically we want to attach this sun angle gamma, and it's pretty straightforward. Thank you very much. Okay, so we can do the test better. So let's do the test again. So we will have green when we are down, and we will have red when we're up. Right, so whoa, full red, bang on. Right, so we have full red. Now let's get down. Oops, next go down to something that looks like 45 degrees. Let me see if it's really 45 degrees. Okay, so now it's 45 degrees, right? And we have yeah, this kind of orange. So the idea is that if I move this, we'll move into the yellow. Yes, correct. Right. So this is really mixing in a sort of more linear way between the green that we have when the sun is down here. Right. It goes up slowly into the yellow, orange, and the red. Right. Now, by changing this, I can make this transition faster, so it happens earlier. So we are green down here with the sun very down, and we quickly move into orange and blue, which is exactly what we want, right? Always adjusting. Right. All right. That's okay. And now I wish I had already a save button, because once I have the save button, I will have to do this all over again. But that's okay. Hello, boat. And at the top, we have this, but we will fix the top later. So the horizon is about this, and ambient color is around this. sort of okay. This zenith should be probably a little bit darker. All right, looks good, and the sun angle gamma is like this. Boom. All right. I have a little bit of green. Right. All right, so save, and let's try for the last time, hopefully, to get this to work. The reason why I don't save straight on that file is I think it's better for not be disruptive. All right, okay, that looks like this time it worked. Right, so let's say that the lighting editor is done. So let's try to do this auto exposure. Right, so what's the idea here? The idea is that the word says itself, right? So in this case, I can change the exposure of the scene manually. What we want to do, we want the system to be able to auto adjust this and still leave the user the possibility to tweak it. Self CTX. Jesus! They implemented this in Rust Analyzer. I didn't know. I was saying this wouldn't work, but look at that. They implemented it. Amazing. Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome. That makes things so much better. This is true. We should be able, we should see an image that is all blurred. Yep, it works. Right. This kind of effect is very useful to do also things like don't have cheered. Thank you very much. I have no idea what it means. I really don't know what it means. Anyway, you see that this kind of trick with the generate bitmaps is very useful also for doing stuff like depth of field and right. Well, thanks a lot, mate. I will read that what it means. Okay, so this is interesting because it can show us what's going on, right? So if we go to MIP number 10, which should be our last MIP, we should basically see almost one color. There you go. Okay, so now what we're seeing is basically the average color of the entire scene. Dralberto, thank you for the follow. Right, so that's what the entire point. That's what we were trying to do. So in other words, we start from the scene gets rendered down to smaller and smaller texture. Like for example, now I'm going to show you the number 4, right? See, so the more we go up with the number of MIPs, the more the image has been compressed, right? So it goes into this, and we get the average code. You know, you want this to come up, but not like this, not like looking like there is a light. All right, so this looks like it's working. Now let me see which one of you. Okay, I like this. This is so hacky, this not A and OX1. Let's try this one. Let's see if it works. So what was it? The function was invert index. So you want to do not I, right? That's what you want to do, right? Let's see if it works. Yeah, it works. Where are we? Now, okay, so in theory, we've done this. Now I can do two things. I can either move on and do the bloom, or, and I think I should, do this one better and implement levels. Like, you know, clumps, which I think it's better. Bound. So let's say we bound this to 4 and this one to 0.6. So I want to look at the water, and I don't want the water to start to look like it's got a light under it. I'm still doing it. Still doing it. Am I being a total idiot? I am. I'm changing the wrong code, am I? Oh my God. Now, let's put this one up to 2 and this one up to 0.9. It should stop us. Interesting. Okay. So that means that the auto exposure would like to raise this. And we're stopping from raising it. So I put this down. Makes total sense. And so go down like this, look down, and it doesn't come up. Perfect. That's the problem with the HDR. I remember with Assetto Corsa it was a nightmare to get it right. Because in reality, when you look at something like this, right? The human eye is like, sometimes you're looking at here and you're balancing this color. Sometimes you're looking at the water and you're balancing that color. When you have something like this, it's just working on the average of the image, and it has no idea on which part of the image you're really focused. So that's the annoying thing. And I remember why at the end Simone was always crashing down the levels. I've been thinking for a long time if I should if I should even have HDR in this game or not. Because it just makes, it really makes working with colors so difficult. It's a constant fight. Of course, it's more realistic. You can have a much more realistic. But I can already see it's going to be a constant fight between this and the color. I can see now the color is changing all the time, depending on the movement of the boat. Because it's that, especially that wing, is that wing moving? As that wing is catching the sun in a different angle, is changing the entire level of the scene. That's what is happening. It's basically that. So in theory, if I turn more, the problem really depends on the angle of that wing. It's going to be a fight with this. Unless I just give up on the HDR. And end up with something that is much more manageable. I don't know. I have to think about this. I have to think because this is really has the potential to make my life miserable. Many people don't have HDR monitor. They're slowly becoming a standard. Maybe something for a future version. Well, this is not completely related to HDR monitors. Is HDR rendering, which the idea is that you expand the range of possible level of light that you can have. Because in reality, there is a huge difference between something that is being hit by the sunlight and something that is not, right? The stuff that are illuminated by sunlight can be, easily hundreds of times more bright than stuff that are not. They're just sitting next to them. And if you work with a normal graphics range, which is 256 values, right? It's very, very complicated to have that kind of contrast. So the typical scene where you will see that you are in a room, and then there is sun outside, and basically outside is completely bloomed. You cannot see anything because there is so much light outside compared to what is in the room that your eye or your camera adapts to the luminance of the room. So whatever is outside is super bright. The question is, in a game like this, where we are out in the sun always, is this creating more problems than it's solving? That's the question. I mean, it's easy for me to it's easy for me to solve it, right? I can still use the HDR pipeline. All I have to do is have things like right now I already have things like the horizon and stuff. They're all one, right? The only thing that I have that is very powerful, is more powerful, is the sun. That is 4 compared to that. So it's 4 times brighter than anything else. So I can bring the sun down, and this should become equivalent to what we had before. So this should be something that the automatic system should be able to handle much better. bit more exposure to bring everything up. And this we should be able to handle this better. So this could be a way to have the both of both worlds. So don't exaggerate with the power of the sun. The power of the sun. And makes it this will make it much easier for the system. Yeah, I'm changing the illumination, but say it's having a much easier time to adapt. Adjusting the exposure to the level of white boat feels unnatural. Yeah, you're totally right. I think the eye would adapt exposure level for each position individually. Yeah. The problem if you do that, because I thought about that, for example, in Assetto Corsa. The problem is that you could look at the entire image and then just readjust every part of the image. The problem is that the result will be a super unnatural flat image where you're basically doing the opposite of what you expect from an HDR, right? In HDR, you want to have super bright objects and super dark objects, right? You want to have this range. But then if all you do is going back, and remember having this conversation with Simone back and forth because I was angry that he was compressing everything. I was like, what's the point in having HDR if then you're compressing the entire range of the luminosity to a very small range? It just defeats the purpose, right? Yeah, exactly. You end up with something super flat. It's an interesting. It's an interesting, something interesting to think about. You know, it might be that 5 or 6 months from now, I keep all this at one, and I go like, you know what? I don't need this negativity in my life, and I get rid of the entire HDR pipeline. I'm already bored, actually, of working on the graphics. I can't wait to go back working on the physics, which is something that I will do next week. Right now, in the physics, the boat is too easy. Like if I well, now there are waves, so let me put less waves. The problem is that I can fly as much as possible, nothing happen. The boat is just like bouncing over the water, which of course is not what it makes the game really easy, and it's not what we want, right? And it's not what is realistic. The realistic part is that as you get closer to the surface, there is this phenomenon called ventilation, where water gets in the low pressure side of the foil, and basically the foil stops working until you go way deep, and that's why you see this boat sort of falling like that. Which, you know, if you have a foil that is instantly reacting to the presence of water, they will never fall down. You will have the foil going up of the water, then going the water back in the water, and because it's planed up, the foil, it will instantly see a lift, and the boat will start to do this, which is exactly what it's doing right now. So it's bouncing over the water. And what we want is that as we get near the surface, the foil ventilates, and then you will have to sink deep into the water to have the foil working. So you will have this situation where if you go too high and you go out of the water, the foil will completely collapse. The boat will put its nose down, and it's actually a double effect, because once the boat pitches down, you hit the water, then the foils start to work, but now all of a sudden the foils are pitching down as well, so they also put the boat even more down, and you get a nosedive, and you stop, and you lose the race. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for stopping by. If you see this on YouTube, you can check these streams live on Twitch. You can come in and say hello and interact. You can subscribe, you can follow there, or you can just watch the recaps on YouTube. My next stream is going to be next Friday morning, 10 o'clock Central European time. Until then, bye-bye and ciao.